Hey, what is up, guys? Blunt Cuts here. This is a Watch Over Realms video. Thanks so much for tuning into my channel. I appreciate it. Please do like and subscribe if you do enjoy my content. So, as many of you may know, most of you probably do know, they have delayed the start of Guild Wars Season 4 on Global until July 22nd, which sucks for me as somebody who really likes making GvG content. I don't know what I'm going to do with myself for the next 2.5 weeks, but I guess one of the things that I am going to do is spending some time here on Forerunner. I am going to start engaging with my Forerunner account, I guess, which honestly, I don't really do all that much with. I mainly use it to just generate summons and use those summons to make content for. So, it is nice when there are new features that are added on Forerunner. I can kind of hop on here and show people what the new stuff looks like, but I don't love the idea of bringing this account into a competitive environment. Thankfully, I don't know that I would consider what I'm looking at right now a competitive environment. As you can see, my Forerunner guild, we've got 8 people, including myself, that have registered defenses, and then the opposition, only 11 people have registered defenses. So this is not exactly a really high-level GvG environment, but we're not going to be actually facing these. I will put a video out later where I do take on some of these defenses, mainly for testing purposes, just so I can kind of play around with attacking the new maps and the setup there. But right now, what I am going to take a look at are my garrison teams right here. I do want to show you what the new tower setup does look like. I'm going to show you where you can place units, and I'm going to float some ideas as far as some defense comps that we might be able to put together when this new map is released. So, without further ado, let's get into the maps. All right, guys, so take a look around, get used to this. We're going to be looking at this a whole lot come July 22nd. Who knows how many seasons this is going to be, our tower map, but it is a lot more similar, I would say, to the Central Keep map than what we saw in the regular tower map that we played on for the last 3 seasons. So get ready for some change, get ready for some new strategies. New defense ideas are going to be needed, because the way that this looks is just completely foreign to me. I'm still trying to figure out what the kind of the ins and outs are of this kind of map. So let me show you the ground placements right here, are all of these green tiles. I think just the thing to note here really is that you've got 2 main areas where you could set up your ground units. It's really going to be these 3 tiles down here, or the 4 tiles that are up here. So that is something to note. One thing I would kind of caution you about, if you see this tile and you think to yourself, well, I'm going to be able to set up somebody right here, you could, theoretically. However, you're not going to be able to hit anybody pathing down this way. So they would have to sit below where Ymiric is right now. So basically, if we look at Ymiric's range here, and we look at what the 2 tiles that are below him are the only ones when you would really be able to hit anybody, because from what I've found, the demon soldiers, they spawn up here where my mouse pointer is, and then they path around, they go all the way down to the corner, and then they turn. So there's no like coming down here, turning immediately, then coming back down again. You're not going to get any free shots by placing a long-range fighter down here and trying to hit them before they get to the tank stack. So that is something to keep in mind. With that said, however, you could potentially put a tank here. That's always an option. However, Ymiric, where Ymiric is positioned right now, right here, that is going to be vulnerable to ranged attacks, a la, say, like archers or lightning guards or potentially bookkeepers. Those kinds of things are likely to hit Ymiric before they're going to hit the tank. So I think realistically what you're likely going to want to do is place somebody over here. And there's a few interesting things that you could do with a fighter placed in this position. If I brought in Aracha, for example, Aracha gets extended range, not on the end of her attack range, but the 2 side columns here are going to get 1 extra tile of range. So if I brought Aracha into this team, Aracha could potentially sit here and would be able to hit in front of Cyrus. If you do have Ymiric, Ymiric will gain, of course, the Piercer bonus and would be able to do that as well. I think maybe Apsan would be able to do it too. I can't remember what his range is exactly, but I'm sure that he would get the same kind of extension there. So if it is the same base range, then he should be able to do that as well. Now, I don't think anybody's going to be bringing Apsan to high-level GvG, but you never know. We're going to have to... there's going to be some new meta heroes, more than likely, because of the way that this is set up. So that is the first thing. The second thing that I do want to show you is also kind of revolving around fighters here. So if I were to put a tank here and then put a fighter, not there, but right here, and I face them to the right, the fighter's never going to get hit by ranged attacks. So if we bring in, say, like a bookkeeper, pass around, Cyrus is always going to be closer to the bookkeeper than Ymir it is, because the bookkeeper is going to path down here along the bottom and then up and then over. There's no point where Ymir is going to be closer, so there's no point when the bookkeeper is going to target him. Now, if Cyrus was positioned back here, then Ymir would get targeted by a ranged damage dealer like a bookkeeper or an archer before they got to Cyrus. So that is something to keep in mind. I have tested this. Bookkeepers do not hit him. The other thing that is interesting about this, if anybody knows the bookkeeper and the uncommon destroyer, they do AoE damage, but they do AoE damage in a cross pattern. So if they were to hit Cyrus, the tiles the adjacent tiles that would take AoE damage would be the tiles in front and behind of Cyrus, and to the left and to the right. The diagonally adjacent tiles, for example, where Ymir it is, and then where my mouse pointer is right now, and down here, you can't really see it, but right here where my mouse pointer is, those tiles do not take damage from the AoE on the bookkeeper or on the uncommon destroyer. So theoretically, this is kind of a safe spot here. Now, the one caveat to that is that I have tested this as well, and you can use exploding bugs. And if you have what would previously have been considered a failed bombing run, meaning that you didn't penetrate past the tank, but the bombs do explode on Cyrus, where he is right now, then they will take out whichever fighter you do have in this position over here. I think it could be interesting to play around with it. I think a tanky fighter, somebody who has some kind of unyielding or extra lives, I'll say like a Valderon, would be a really good placement in this spot, because they're going to be hard to target and they are going to be able to survive those bugs potentially. So that is something to keep in mind. As far as, let's recall these guys real quick. As far as the range tiles here, I'm going to show you, it's basically every place that looks like you would be able to place a ranged unit you can. So you've got all of these green highlighted tiles right now are going to be your ranged placements. So you can put heroes up here potentially, but they're going to have to be tanky, because the furthest up you can put a tank is here. And if you place Boreas here, for example, then archers and bookkeepers are going to hit him. So that is something to keep in mind. Now, you could potentially put somebody back here, but again, as I was saying before, the bookkeepers and the uncommon destroyers, they do hit in kind of a cross pattern. So the tiles that are adjacent to Cyrus but not diagonal from him, so in front, behind, left, right, those are the ones that are going to be hit by that AoE, which is exactly where Boreas is standing right now. So he would be in danger of getting killed by those units. So that is something to keep in mind. With that said, let's talk a little bit about potential defense spots. I think one thing that is going to be quite effective, Cyrus is again going to be really, really good here, I think. You can sit him here and you can see his entire range is going to be effective against the incoming enemy units, the ground-based ones, because they are going to path down here. They're going to path down to the corner and then run right along the bottom here. I have tested this. That is the path that the ground units do go along. So Cyrus is going to be able to hit all of them and get basically the full benefit of his range by being placed here. You also can place a ranged fighter back here and face them to the right, and they are going to have one tile in front that they are going to be able to hit, so they'll be able to get in front of the tank right there. That is important to note. Mages, or really anybody with a standard 4-tile range, are not going to be able to hit from this back tile, and that does make things a little bit complicated. Now, Boreas is a bit of an outlier because he's got a 3.5 tile range. So anybody that's standing in front of Cyrus right now, Boreas would be able to hit, which I think is going to make him quite effective in this game mode. What you can do, though, is put somebody down here, and they'll be able to hit, and they won't get hit by the cross-shaped AoE from the bookkeepers or from the uncommon destroyers. So that's something to keep in mind. Now, the negative of that is that if you want a healer to be in range of your tank, you're going to need to bring somebody like say like a Pharisee or a Vortex, somebody with a longer range heal. Elowen is not going to be able to cut it. I think that Carnelian would work because she does have kind of a marksman range, a 3x4 range on her heals, so she would be able to hit. But you're going to have to get a little creative. I guess potentially what you also could do is you couldn't do it with Elowen. Elowen wouldn't work, but if you had somebody with longer range, you could place them up here as well. So that is always an option. But these are the kinds of defenses that I was thinking might be effective. So you put something like that, and then you can put your Elowen here to keep your Cyrus up. But again, I think the Ellen is probably not great for this comp. And the negative of this is that you're not going to be able to hit anybody with your Enora in this case. Now, she'll be able to attack once there are enemies that are in range if anybody gets past Cyrus. But until then, she's just going to be kind of deleted from the battle. She's not going to do anything. So that is something to keep in mind. The other way that I think that you could set this up is back by the Soul Crystal. So I'm just going to recall everybody. And this would not be ideal with Cyrus in particular, but if you had a different tank, I think this is certainly a way that you could do it. You could put Cyrus there. You could put Ymir right there. Alternately, if you wanted to avoid the possibility of the AoE. Oh, you can't actually. I thought that there was a tile right in front of the Soul Crystal where you could place somebody. You cannot do that, actually. So that is a problem. But you could put a Ymir down here. Or, if you wanted to, you have 5 of these tiles right around here where you'd be able to drop somebody. So you could even, if you pretended that Ymir is a second tank, what you could do is drop in Ymir there. You can drop in your AoE there. You can drop in your AoE there. And then, of course, your healer right there. And in this case, you know, Ymir is probably going to get popped by an Uncommon Destroyer or by a Bookkeeper. However, if you did have another tank in there, you would kind of effectively be able to cluster in the same way that we used to in the old tower defenses. So that is something to keep in mind. With that said, I think I'm gonna end this video there. Those are just some very, very rudimentary thoughts about the way that this could get set up. I think that due to the plethora of platform tiles, the limitation is largely going to be ground tiles. So you can set up your attacking units on platforms in a lot of different ways in here. You can have your ground units down here and have some attackers up there. You're going to have to play around with ranges. I do think that Piercer Lords may end up being really effective here because extra range is going to be key and give you a wider range of placements that you can use. And because of the twists and turns here, not everything is going to be able to be hit on a direct line as it was in the previous one. So in any case, guys, I've been Bluntcuts. Thank you so much for watching my video. Please do like and subscribe if you do enjoy my content. Catch you all next time.